Welcome to CC Lectures. I am Dr. Kumar Shantanu from Department of Botany, Deshbandhu College. Today we shall continue our discussion of various morphological, anatomical and reproductive aspects of Anthoceros. In our previous lecture, we have gone through the various morphological features of Anthoceros thallus. In that, we discussed that Anthoceros thallus is dorsiventral in nature. The dorsal surface is wavy, whereas on the ventral surface we have smooth rhizoids. As far as the anatomy of Anthoceros thallus is concerned, most of the thallus cells are parenchymatous. In the central portion of the thallus, the thickness is more, which gradually tapers towards the margins. In the thallus, we have also seen that there is a presence of mucilage cavities, and in those mucilage cavities, there is a presence of blue-green alga called as nostoc. Today, we are going to proceed with this conversation and we are going to see the reproductive aspect of Anthoceros. When the gametophyte has grown to its adult size, it produces the 6 organs. Most species of Anthoceros are monoecious. For example, Anthoceros himalayensis, Anthoceros fusiformis, where both 6 organs are present on the same plant. But in some species, they are dioecious also. For example, Anthoceros erectus, Anthoceros chambensis, where separate male and female gametophytes are found. The female organ are known as archegonia. Singular term is archegonium, and the male organs are known as antheridia. In singular, they are also termed antheridium. The archegonia are usually protandrous, that is, antheridia are formed earlier than the archegonia, and archegonia show slight dimorphism as female thalli are broader than the male thalli. This phenomenon of protandry is to ensure that the male and female gametes are produced at different time of the life cycle. This also multiplies the chances of cross fertilization amongst Anthoceros thallus. So here we can see that there is an advent of cross fertilization which has started amongst land plants. Both kinds of organs, that is archegonia and antheridia, develop just below the dorsal surface of the plant along the inconspicuous midrib. However, they later get exposed by disintegration of the overlying cells. As far as the structure of antheridium in Anthoceros is concerned, a mature antheridium has a multicellular stalk with 4 rows of cells and a club-shaped clavate or cylindrical orange-colored body. The antheridium consists of an outer single-layered jacket and an inner mass of biflagellate antherozoids. The ripe antheridia are bright orange in color because the plastids of the jacket layer develop into orange-colored chromoplasts. In the diagram, it is clearly visible that the antheridial chamber is always subepidermal. That is, they are found just below the epidermal layer, and in this antheridial chamber, one or more than one antheridia can be produced. The position of antheridia in Anthoceros are unique because it is endogenous and they are usually present along the median line of acropatal manner. They occur singly or in groups on the upper surface of the thallus within closed cavities called as the enthedial chambers. Each enthedial chamber is roofed over by the thallus tissue, which is 2 cell layers in thickness. When mature, they are somewhat raised from the thallus surface with the central opening forming hemispherical elevations on the thallus, or they appear as scooped areas as in the case of Anthoceros erectus. In the diagram, we can very well see the presence of enthredia inside an enthedial chamber. At maturity, they dehisce with the help of an enthedial pore, and upon dehiscence, a mature biflagellate sperm is released. The upper layer of enthedial chamber is also sometimes called as enthedial roof. An enthedia consists of a basal enthedial stalk and a single jacket layer which surrounds multiple androcyte mother cells or androgonial cells. These androcyte mother cells, upon metamorphosis, give rise to individual mature sperm cells. The antherozoid, when liberated, they are tiny, slightly curved biflagellate structure that is broader towards the head and thinner towards the tail. The 2 flagella are equal and almost of the same length of the body. The flagella are of whiplash type in Anthoceros antherozoids. As far as the archegonium structure is concerned, in Anthoceros, a mature archegonium consists of an axial row of cells comprising apical 2 to 4 cover cells, 4 to 6 neck canal cells, single intermediate ventral canal cell, and basal most large egg cell. The lower portion or the basal portion of the archegonia is surrounded by the parenchymatous cells. At the base, it has large egg cell. Just above the egg cell are found ventral canal cell, and neck canal cells are longitudinally arranged over ventral canal cell. The epidermal cells are converted into cover cells which help in chemotactic movement of antherozoids at the time of fertilization upon their disintegration. An archegonium is completely surrounded by the adjacent vegetative cells of the thallus except for the apical most cover cells. Thus, the mature archegonium of Anthoceros archegonia is a highly reduced structure as in certain pteridophytes and differs remarkably from that of the bryophytes. Generally, it is difficult to locate the archegonium in the thallus from the external surface except for the presence of distinct broad mucilage mound. The archegonia are present completely embedded in the thallus tissue in acropatal manner. They lie close to the growing point in regular rows and are sunk deep in the fleshy thallus on its upper surface. As far as the fertilization in Anthoceros is concerned, prior to fertilization, the neck canal cells and the ventral canal cells gets disintegrated and they form mucilaginous mass, and the egg remains present inside mucilage filled cavity. So, the cells of neck canal cell and ventral canal, they gradually disintegrate and they form a mucilage mound. This mucilage mound is very rich in multiple sugars, different carbohydrates, different types of amino acids and alkaloid compounds. These are the structures which are highly concentrated in terms of various chemicals and when an antherozoid swims in a water medium and comes to this place, they are chemically attracted to this mucilage mound, and their pathway is absolutely clear till egg, and they reach up to the egg cell, fertilize, and then they form the zygote. The 4 cover cells also separate, forming a clear passage up to the egg. The 4 cover cells also form this mucilaginous mass. This mucilaginous mass remains in continuation with the mucilage mound present on the thallus surface at the apex of archegonium. The dorsal surface of the thallus generally hold a thin film of water collected as a result of rain or dew. In fact, the midrib located in a dorsal furrow functions as a capillary tube with sufficient amount of water. These are the water channels through which antherozoids swim, and they reach up to the egg cell. Upon reaching the surface of the thallus, the antherozoids begin to swim in this water. They get attracted to the mouth of ripened archegonia as a chemotactic response. The motile male gamete reaches the mouth, travels down the narrow neck, and finally makes way to the ripened egg cell. The union of antherozoid nucleus with that of egg cell results in fertilization, and a zygote is formed, which is a double set of chromosome. Therefore, the zygote secretes a wall around it. The zygote rapidly grows by cell division and differentiate into an elongated spindle-shaped structure with a bulbous base called sporogonium or sporophyte. Here are some of the pictures and diagrammatic representation of sporophytes. The sporophytes, they split open longitudinally to release their spores, and inside the sporophyte lies a 16 cell long columella. In Anthoceros, the sporophytes usually grow in clusters from the upper surface of the thallus, each surrounded at its base by tubular involucres. Here in this diagram, you can very well see each of these sporophytes. They are surrounded at the base by tubular involucres. These involucres are nothing but the cellular extension of those vegetative cells which were surrounding the egg cell. That is, the venter cell along with the vegetative thallus cell which surrounds the venter, they gradually divide and give rise to a long tubular sheath around the sporophyte. These involucres have a function in terms of protection to the developing sporophytes. The mature sporophyte comprises a bulbous foot and a cylindrical, smooth, slender capsule whose height varies from 5 to 15 centimeter depending on the species. The seta is almost absent or not visible, demarcated, not very conspicuous. Instead of seta, an intercalary meristematic tissue is present in this intermediate zone. The sporophyte at the base has a foot, a bulbous foot, as shown in this diagram. Just above the foot lies a meristematic region which keeps on dividing, and because of the division of this meristematic zone, the length of sporophyte keeps on growing. The meristematic zone divides throughout its lifetime, and theoretically the length of an sporophyte can be of infinite length. This meristematic zone is also termed as intercalary meristem. Just above this meristematic zone lies the capsule. The capsule in case of Anthoceros is long and slender. In the center of the capsule lies an elongated group of cells called as columella. Surrounding the columella lies spores and pseudoelaters, and both these structures, that is columella and pseudoelaters, they are surrounded by multi-layered jacket cells. These sporophytic jacket layer, they split open longitudinally at the time of dehiscence. The foot is a bulbous structure and is deeply embedded in the gametophytic tissue. Anatomically, the foot is made up of parenchymatous cells. Here in this diagram, you can see the basal region is denoted by F, that is foot, and just at the junction of foot and capsule lies IM, that is intercalary meristem. The cells of outermost layer of foot become large, hostorial in function, and may grow into short rhizoid like outgrowths that derive nutrition from the parenthallus of the sporophyte. Here in this diagram, it is an ultrastructure showing the cells of foot which are branched and elongated, and they gradually get embedded in the cells of gametophyte. These cells, which are elongated just like short rhizoids, they are also called as placenta cells. They have the function of absorbing the nutrient from the gametophytic thallus. Here these cells are analogous to transfer cells. So for the first time we can see that amongst land plants the sporophytic generation is completely dependent upon the gametophytic generation, and they are nutritionally dependent. They are dependent on gametophytic thallus for water supply also. The region of contact between the foot and the thallus tissue is well marked in many species. It is called the placenta. The cells on the gametophytic side of the placenta are called as transfer cells. These cells develop long thread-like ingrowths which branch, and the branches anastomose to form wall labyrinth. These branching and labyrinth formation ensures the increased surface area, and thus the amount of chemicals and compounds transferred across these membranes, they are highly increased. The plasma membrane in the transfer cell is thus greatly increased. The inner cells of foot are parenchymatous, vacuolated, and are not regularly arranged. Now, as far as the capsules of Anthoceros is concerned, as we have already seen, they are elongated, cylindrical, smooth, slender, and erect. It is nearly uniform in thickness throughout its length, except towards the apex where it slightly tapers. Usually it is 2 to 3 centimeter, or in some species it can be up to 15 centimeter long. It is light green at first, but gradually turns brown towards maturity. Since the basal portion of capsule has meristematic cells, these meristematic cells keep on growing throughout the life, and the length of the capsule can be of infinite length theoretically. In a cross section, we can very well see the capsule has an outer jacket layer, and the spore cells are found inside this jacket layer, and in the center is present a long elongated cell called as columella. This diagram very clearly shows the spore tetrads and the columella, which can be seen in the center of the sporophyte. The apex of capsule represents its oldest part. The maturation of spores in the capsule is from the apex and downwards. The capsule is structurally elaborate and a continuously growing organ. The center of the capsule is occupied by a solid core of sterile cells called columella. The columella runs from the base to the apex of the capsule. The columella in endothelial is endothelial in origin, and they are made up of 16 rows of narrow, vertically elongated cells. The main function of columella is to give mechanical strength to the long, delicate capsule, and they aid in spore dispersal also. Some biologists took upon it as a primitive type of vascular cylinder. So, there are multiple structures which we have seen that they have occurred for the first time amongst the land plants. Now, surrounding the columella is a 1 to 2 layered cylinder of sporogenous tissue, in which the entire developmental stages of both fertile and sterile cells, beginning from one layered archisporium at the base to mature spores and pseudoelaters at the tip, can be traced. A pseudoelater consists of 1 to 4 cells and are devoid of thickenings, unlike Hepaticopsida. They are not true elaters because they are not derived from the same mother cells as the spores. The shape of pseudoelaters are variable, and they may falsely appear branched by the lobing of the end cells. Spores in Anthoceros are tetrahedral, brown to black in color, and measure approximately 0.3 mm in diameter. Each spore has a nucleus, a single colorless plastid, oil globules, and other food material. Located external to the fertile zone is the 4 to 6 layered wall of the capsule. The outermost layer forms a distinct epidermis consisting of narrow, vertically elongated cells with cutinized walls. The continuity of epidermis is interrupted by the presence of a number of stomata that comprise a pore surrounded by 2 guard cells, which can be very distinctly seen in these diagrams. Each stomata is widely separated from the other and is vertically oriented with respect to the longitudinal axis of the capsule. The cells of the layers inner to the epidermis develop chloroplast, 2 chloroplasts per cell, and intercellular spaces. Thus, the cells of a capsule wall are photosynthetically active and undergo gaseous exchange with the help of stomata and intercellular spaces, though they have to depend on the gametophyte for the supply of water and minerals. Evolutionarily, these semi-autonomous sporophytes of hornworts are fairly advanced. It is hypothesized that if the foot could make contact with the soil and draw nutrients and water, it would become completely independent and may throw light on the origin of sporophytes in higher groups of plants. The intercalary zone is a thin meristematic zone which is present between the foot and seta. It is often regarded as reduced seta due to its intercalary position. However, it is entirely different from seta. The meristem continuously cuts off cells that progressively differentiate into columella in the center, archisporium in the middle, and wall layers on the periphery. The presence of a basal intercalary meristem enables the capsule to grow for a long period and form spores. The occurrence of intercalary meristem is a unique feature of the Anthoceros and is not found in any other bryophyte. So, the distinctive features of Anthoceros sporophyte is First, the continued growth from the basal intercalary meristem, the elaborate central tissue into the sterile columella, greatly reduced fertile tissues, archisporium amphithecial in origin and extended into a dome-like structure, green capsule wall and presence of simple multicellular pseudolaters. And these sporophytes, they dehisce longitudinally after ripening, and they release the spores, which upon germination give rise to a new thallus. So, with this we have concluded the reproduction in Anthoceros. In the next coming lecture, we will be seeing the morphology, anatomy and reproduction of other genus of bryophytes. Thank you so much.